Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode, we're reviewing WWE Fastlane for 2023. Now, if you haven't seen any of my videos before, I grade everything on a 1 to 5 scale, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Let's jump right into it. I want to talk about something that happened on the pre-show, and then they showed the replay during the actual event, and that's the arrival of Jade Cargill. I've said it before, I even made a full video about this, but Jade Cargill is going to be a massive star in the WWE. The way she arrived, the way she looked, being greeted by Triple H, everything about that looked great. The whole presentation of Jade Cargill is top notch. And much like I said on my video talking about Jade and the situation itself, I think this is them, for one, seeing someone that could be a massive star, and for two, putting basically a commercial for any AEW talent that might be thinking to come to WWE. Look at what we're doing here. They haven't even had her in one match, and she already looks like one of the biggest stars in the company. With that being said, let's jump into the show. We start off fittingly with the first match of the night. The first big AEW defector, Cody Rhodes and his partner Jey Uso, going up against Finn Balor and Damian Priest, representing Judgment Day for both the SmackDown and Raw Tag Team Championships, which I kind of wish they would unify them, and if they're not going to, not defend both at the same time. This is where something like a different general manager on each show would make a huge difference, because you could have one of the general managers, say on SmackDown, demanding that they defend the Tag Team Championship there, and then on Monday you could have the Monday Night general manager demanding they defend the titles there, kind of basically wearing them out till they lose one or the other or both. Just in my opinion, if you're not going to unify them, split them up. Let some other tag teams get a shine. Let some other tag teams carry them. This was a really fun match. I really enjoyed this. Obviously, the rest of Judgment Day comes out to get involved. Dominic Mysterio, Rhea Ripley, JD McDonough, who's not necessarily in Judgment Day yet. JD ends up hitting Damian Priest with an errant chair shot in the knee, thus putting into motion the events to have Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes pick up the win, which I was really shocked at, because even with the current storyline, I didn't think Jey Uso would ever win a tag championship with anybody other than Jimmy Uso, and I kind of have a theory on this. Cody Rhodes' whole thing is completing the story or finishing the story. So if that's going to be WrestleMania 40, what do you do with Cody between now and WrestleMania 40? That's 5 months, 6 months away. Have him run with the tag championships, maybe the Royal Rumble, loses them early in the card in the Royal Rumble, gets in the Rumble match, wins the Rumble again, thus setting into motion the WrestleMania main event. Just a theory I have as to why they have him with the tag titles, so technically the focus isn't on him completing the story for a little bit. I thought this was fantastic. I loved this. I thought it was awesome. I'm giving this a 5 right off the bat. Next up, we have a 6-man tag match. First off, Bobby Lashley, Angelo Dawkins, and Montez Ford, which they haven't given a name to their faction yet. I'd like to see it be given a name and be something cool. Hopefully not something derivative of another faction in history. I seen someone online recommend the name Power, but I think that would be too tied to the TV show, although it is a strong name. I don't want to see a rehash of the Hurt Business if you're not going to bring an MVP. I hope it's not something super derivative like Lashley's Legends or Lashley's League or whatever you want to call it. But I do hope they get a name and kind of go forward from there. They're going up against the LWO, represented by Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar, with a mystery partner, because both of the other male members of the LWO have been injured by Lashley's group. So we start the match as a 2-on-3 situation, because Rey Mysterio put a call into somebody but didn't get an answer yet. We see there's a spot in the match where Rey's going for a tag. Santos isn't there, so out comes their mystery partner, Carlito. This I kind of seen coming a mile away. There's been rumors going all the way back to Backlash that Carlito re-signed with the company and's just been on the back burner for a bit. I kind of could have seen this being Dragon Lee as well, but the whole calling him on the phone thing didn't make sense because he was at SmackDown. He could have just talk to him there. Carlito was cool seeing him out there, and no pun intended on Carlito's name. But yeah, it's really cool. I mean, he looks amazing. He still looks like he's the same age and same shape he was back 15, 20 years ago. The guy looks great. He comes in, as soon as he came in the match, you knew what the outcome was going to be because obviously you have the returning hero. The LWO team picks up the win here. I'm giving this a 4. It was really fun. The way they did it kind of harkened back to the days of old, whether it be the 6-man with the NWO or the times when someone would get injured, go to the locker room, and they'd come back right when they were needed for the tag team. I'm giving this one a 4. I thought it was really good. Next up, we have a 3-way match for the Women's Championship, SmackDown Women's Championship. We have Charlotte Flair going up against Asuka, going up against the current champion or reigning champion going into the match, Io Sky. The story in this is earlier in the night, Io Sky told Bayley and Dakota Kai not to come out, not to help her. This is a really fun match, and this was kind of a match, you know how good all 3 of these women are, but you kind of forget just like how great someone like Charlotte, and Asuka and Io Sky are great too, don't get me wrong, but we tend to forget like how great true greatness like Charlotte is. Charlotte Flair may be the best women's wrestler of all time, and that's not hyperbole, she's just that good. And you kind of overlook it. It's kind of like when I talk about Nirvana, the band. Everybody talks about Nirvana or the Beatles, or if you like movies, The Godfather, and they talk about how great they are, but you really don't process it till you start really watching it and you see just the little things, like her moonsault to the outside is always flawless. Her movements are flawless. Her actions in the ring are great. I know this sounds like a total fluff piece for Charlotte Flair. It was just something that I was thinking as I was watching it. It's a really, really fun match. And I know I went off on a tangent there for a while, but it makes sense, I guess. I hope it makes sense to you guys. Ultimately, Io Sky does pick up the win when Bayley does come out to help her. She doesn't seem as frustrated afterwards, so I'm glad they're giving this a slow burn, because eventually that's what's going to be the breakup. Her and Bayley are going to face off for the championship at some point, or Bayley's going to accidentally cost her the championship to break up the team at some point. I thought this again was another really fun match. Io keeping the belt was a little bit, I wouldn't say surprising, because I kind of expected Charlotte Flair to win because lol, Charlotte Flair wins. I'm giving this one a 4. I thought it was fun again. I thought it was a really good match. Next up, we have a surprise appearance by Pat McAfee, which is impressive because earlier in the day he was in Texas for the Texas-Oklahoma game. So he must have got on a private jet after the game or after game day was over to come up to Indianapolis, which makes sense because he was a longtime Indianapolis Colt. He hypes up the crowd a bit, talks about WrestleMania being in Indianapolis, which is kind of becoming a trope of the pay-per-views. John Cena just recently said it in London. He's saying it here. I mean, not knocking Indianapolis, it's a great city, but London, Indianapolis, one of these things is not like the other. And again, not knocking Indianapolis, but I would think a bigger impact would be made in London, and I would think they would want to go to London to see if they could top AEW's Wembley crowd and get 85,000 plus for their show. That leads us right into him announcing John Cena for the second tag team match of the night, or actually third with the 6-man tag team. John Cena and LA Knight, the super baby faces, against the Bloodline, being represented by Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa, who have the wise man Paul Heyman with them. And Paul's going to letting his hair be gray, which I have gray hair too, so this criticism is not a man showing that he's gray. It just makes me feel older seeing Paul with gray hair, because yes, he's been bald, and he's been bald for 30 years, but there was something about the black hair. It was kind of, he didn't look different than really he did in ECW, or not as dramatically different. He just looks so old with the gray hair. And yes, I realize you're hearing these words come out of the mouth of a man that you see with a full-on gray beard that kind of looks like Santa Claus. So take that with a grain of salt. Maybe it's just me growing and Paul getting older as I get older, because I believe Paul's like 15 years older than I am, or somewhere around that, but I digress. I really have to say this was my least favorite match of the night. It was slow, kind of boring. The crowd was super into it. They loved everything that Cena and LA Knight did. Something about the smaller, not as bulky John Cena, the bald spot, the fact that he comes into these matches with a farmer's tan most of the time, doesn't look like he bothers to stop and at least get a spray tan or anything so his matches up. It just kind of, and this is gonna tell you how old I am, it kind of reminds me of Bruno Sammartino when he would tag up with his son David Sammartino in the mid-80s and Bruno was past his prime and very noticeable past his prime. Kind of what I got the vibe of John Cena here, and I think John Cena's my age, so I'm not making fun of the guy for being old, but let's face it, we're both kind of old. He's not the John Cena of John Cena in his prime. LA Knight, great character, but you'll never say that he's one of the top 4 or 5 wrestlers in the business. He might be one of the top 4 or 5 merchandise sellers, promo cutters, one of the top 4 or 5 reactions. Just in the ring, not greatest. Like I said, this was my least favorite match of the night. LA Knight and Cena do pick up the win here. I'm giving this one a 3. It wasn't bad. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't a bad match, but I kind of feel like this would have been better suited to be a main event of SmackDown than a big match on a pay-per-view card that only has 5 matches. That leads us right into our main event of the evening. For the WWE Championship, we have Seth freaking Rollins defending against Shinsuke Nakamura in a last man standing match, and this was outstanding. Nakamura came out in the same robe he wore in the match versus the Great Muta, which was a little bit of foreshadowing, and I'll get to that in a moment. Seth Rollins came out in a really obnoxious outfit, as he always does, some kind of fashion, which looks great. I mean obnoxious in the best possible way. And it kind of dawned on me that Seth Rollins' character is just the Americanized version of Shinsuke Nakamura's character. They dance, they come out, they got the whoa-ohs in their songs. They're both super over with the crowd. This was a really fun match. And these guys did some crazy stuff. There were some big spots, like the Muta callback when he used the red mist on him, or them going through multiple tables and chair shots and just some violent looking shot to Seth Rollins' back. Shinsuke hitting his knees on several things that looked like he damaged himself. Them fighting through the crowd. There were several times where I really thought Shinsuke Nakamura could have won this match, and I was really hoping for that because I'm a huge Shinsuke fan. I like Seth too, don't get me wrong. It's just that Shinsuke's one of my top wrestlers of all time. I love him that much. This was so exciting and so fun. I kind of was a bit disappointed with the finish, because here we have Shinsuke hitting Seth with everything, multiple Kinshasas, working on his back that we're led to believe is already injured, and Seth hitting a couple different curb stomps, hitting the pedigree, but then winning with a Falcon Arrow through a setup table situation. Kind of felt like a little bit of a downer. Not that it took away from the match. The match itself was fantastic. I liked this. They went all out. They also missed or didn't capitalize on the opportunity to have Damian Priest turn in his Money in the Bank briefcase, because earlier Mommy Rhea Ripley took it from him and told him he's not in any condition to do it, which it would have kind of made sense here because Seth was really beat up even after the match, even after he won, which, in case you didn't watch, Seth Rollins did win the match. I think that was a little bit of a missed opportunity. Not terrible. He could have just came out. He didn't necessarily have to cash in. I also feel like you could have had Shinsuke Nakamura win. I feel like if you're going to go with a long reign with one of the championships, the other championship may be more of a hot potato where, 3-month reign, 5-month reign, 2-month reigns are in play, at least until Roman loses his championship, and then, maybe you have longer championships with the WWE title, basically to give more people the chance to run with one of the big 2 belts. I thought this was fantastic, and you hear me nitpicking here, but I'm giving this a 5 again. I think we got bookmarked with 2 matches that were really great for the beginning of the show and the end of the show, with some of their biggest stars, with the Judgment Day, Seth Rollins, Shinsuke Nakamura, Jey Uso, and Cody Rhodes, who were super over. This was a really fun card. Came in just under 3 hours, which was great. After watching last week's Wrestle Dream pay-per-view, which was a really fun pay-per-view, but by the time you got to the end of it and it was 15 matches deep and 5 hours into it, including the pre-show, it wears you out. And I know why they do it. They want to give you your most bang for your buck, but as a fan, I'd much rather see a 5-match card where not everybody gets in, but all the matches are good, they're given time. I really enjoyed this card overall. I thought it was super fun. I think most of the WWE Premium Live events for the year have been stellar. This was another one that was stellar in my opinion. I'm giving it, for the sum of its parts, I'm giving it a 5. between the first and last match, the 6-man match, the women's 3-way match, all were fantastic. The surprise Pat McAfee appearance, the Jade Cargill arrival, everything here was fantastic. Like I said, my one down is a good match still. So I thought this was a really enjoyable card. This is the kind of premium live event that I'm going to go back in 6 months and watch, and I'm going to go back in 2 years and watch again because it's just fun. I rather enjoyed this. With that being said, if you made it to the end here, let's smash that like button, share the video, subscribe if you haven't. Doing that definitely helps me out. It also helps me out if you want to click that join button and become a member. We have memberships starting off as low as 99 cents. It'll really help me out if you do that. Help me to build the channel, help me to build the viewers, my friends out there. I'd appreciate it. With all that being said, if you made it here to the end, let me know what your favorite match of the card was. Put it down here in the comments. My name is George Coles, and this has been my review of Fastlane 2023.